Welcome to Pearced Off. My name's Jonathan Pearce, and this is another counter-apologetics segment. Last time I looked at an argument by Alvin Plantinga, a Christian philosopher who looks at evolution and naturalism as being self-defeating. And I looked at his argument and cast a little bit of doubt on one of the premises. And this segment, I'm going to look at the other premise and cast some doubt on that. So let's look at the argument that Plantinga put across. Now, this is his evolutionary argument against naturalism. And I will give a very basic form, which is, if naturalistic evolution is true, our cognitive faculties are not reliable. But our cognitive faculties are reliable, therefore it follows, as a matter of logic, that naturalistic evolution is not true. Now, last segment I looked at whether our cognitive faculties really are reliable and cast some doubt on that. So let's look now at the first premise, which is, if naturalistic evolution is true, our cognitive faculties are not reliable. So this asserted first premise is the key to Alvin Plantinga's argument. In actual fact, he does use a slightly more nuanced version of that. That's a very simplified version of his argument. It actually says that if naturalistic evolution is true, then our cognitive faculties are not reliable. He actually says that the probability of our cognitive faculties being reliable is low. So that's a slightly nuanced difference there. But still, the point is that the two are either flat out incompatible, or there's a high probability that they're incompatible, i.e. evolution and the ability to rationalize, to have effective cognitive faculties. Now, the idea is that Plantinga is trying to take the rug from under naturalists' feet by saying that evolution isn't particularly interested in true beliefs. So when we make a claim, for example, that evolution is true, that we have this true belief that evolution is true and the correct theory, it's a kind of self-defeating issue, because evolution is not interested in human beings, for example, holding true beliefs. So the classic sort of riposte to this was Dennett's example, Daniel Dennett, that said, well, look, a frog is sitting on a lily and it has a sort of belief that there's a fly at X, at position X. So if it sticks its tongue out at X and catches that fly, and the fly really is at X, in other words, the frog has a true belief that the fly is at X, so it sticks its tongue out at X and it catches the fly, then the frog will get some food. So in fact, there's a benefit to believing that the fly is in the position that it really is. In other words, the frog has a true belief and is rewarded for that true belief. Of course, if the frog believes the fly is at X and sticks its tongue out, but the fly is actually at Y, then the frog will get no food. And in fact, if that continually happens, then the frog will die through starvation. So therefore, evolution is interested in truth because it's of survival benefit. Now, Plantinga comes back at this by saying, well, that's not really a belief, that's like an impulse. But of course, the issue I will take up with this is that during the Pleistocene era, when the human brain was evolving in our hunter-gatherer stage, we evolved from a lesser primate to what we are now. And at some point we developed the ability to rationalize and higher neurophysiological functioning. Now, we were still rewarded for true beliefs, or true impulses if you like, until these became true beliefs to a certain degree. Now, of course, there are issues that we have evolved certain tendencies to believe things that aren't true. For example, religion. So one can sort of argue that evolution isn't particularly interested in truth. But of course, what we have evolved to use is the ability to rationalize, to understand logic and to understand cause and effect, because that definitely has survival benefits. So with that, we can unpick what is a true belief and what is a belief which isn't true. And we're at a stage now when we fully understand the cause and effect relationships in psychology and science and so on, so that we can actually say, well, do you know what, maybe religion isn't true and these other beliefs aren't true. So in a funny way, or not in a funny way, evolution has allowed us to evolve, or caused us, or our environments have caused us to evolve these particular characteristics of rationality, of observing and understanding the world around us, such that we can derive true beliefs. So I'm not altogether in agreement with Plantinga here, because I think that evolution isn't self-defeating, and in fact it has given us the tools with which to appraise the world around us, evaluate, and there are certainly pressures that will pressurize such a being as a human to arrive at true beliefs, and likewise at untrue beliefs. But luckily that same pressure has given us the cognitive faculties to try and unpick what's true from what's untrue. But of course, as I mentioned in the last segment, we have a lot of cognitive biases, so there are things that get in the way of our deriving true beliefs. Now, interestingly, this is actually an argument back at theism, because of course, if we have poor cognitive functioning and biases, and our cognitive faculties aren't particularly reliable, or aren't always reliable, then of course this doesn't really lend itself to the design of God, who has designed humanity, whether through theistic evolution or just, straight off the production line. You wouldn't expect us to be unreliable. And so I think when you're looking at all the evidence of everything that's around us, and certainly of these ideas, then what's the most plausible explanation? Well, I think evolution provides us with the most plausible explanation, because we have cognitive faculties that allow us to survive, that have done a really good job in just about getting us here. And now we're at a stage where we're sort of populating at a large rate, we're kind of comfortable in sort of evolutionary terms, and this is allowing us to develop abilities and use our cognitive faculties to a greater extent, if you like. We are not merely at a subsistence level. We have the luxury of free time and of exploring the world of thought and philosophy. So I think what most plausibly explains this, as I said, is evolution. And I'm not sure Plantinga's evolutionary argument against naturalism holds on either premise. So as I said the last time, the weak criticism I had was against the fact that, well, we don't really have reliable cognitive faculties, and this time it's the fact that actually evolution and having reliable cognitive faculties are not incompatible. So there you go, just a whistle-stop tour there. I mean, there's so much more depth one can go into on this subject, but something for you guys to at least get your teeth into. I've been Jonathan M.S. Pearce. Please drop by my blog, and as ever, question everything.